Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of More Insights and Strategy, the Enterprise App Podcast, episode 14. I'm Robert Kramer and joined with Melanie Brew. We're both VP and Principal Analysts at More Insights and Strategy. I handle ERP and enterprise data. Mel handles modern work, HCM, CX. On this show, we'll talk about tools, trends, directories, and people and marketing technologies, enterprise apps, ERP, CRM, and the glue that holds it all together. We talk about it all the time. So this week we'll talk a little bit about the Summit, the next gen ERP, Salesforce AI, and a few other things. So let's get a quick disclaimer out and then we'll jump into it. This show is for information purposes only and entertainment purposes only. While we'll talk about publicly traded companies on the show, its contents should not be taken as investment advice. So let's get started. Mel, what's cooking today? Where are you at?
Well, as you can see, I'm outside because I'm in sunny San Diego. And it's so nice to escape the Texas heat. And it's Friday, so I was like, I think I'm going to podcast outside. Here we are. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for the weekend. It's nice to wrap up another, very good week. We got some pretty good stories here, and I'm looking forward to jumping into it and our listeners to hear a little bit about what we have to say. So, all good.
All good. All right. Well, let's get started. So last week I was in Bellevue, Washington for the T-Mobile Innovation Summit and the launch of SuperMobile. So SuperMobile is not just another mobile plan. It brings together network slicing, top-tier security, and live satellite coverage all under one plan. So as I said, I was in there for the launch, and they announced some other things as well that we can't talk about yet. But T-Mobile is really just killing it on innovation. I got to witness some of that innovation firsthand at the PGA Championship, and I love seeing what we always talk about, how the sports deployment translates to business situations to solve enterprise challenges beyond the fun of sports. So it was cool to be there.
Yeah, that is a big deal. So combining an adaptive 5G slice for consistent performance, embedding security layers like Threat Protect and access to satellite to mobile connection, that's both unique and compelling, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. For companies operating in high density or remote environments, so think like logistics, construction, utilities, that combination really matters. So SuperMobile should ensure that they stay reliably connected, whether downtown or deep in the field.
And I believe it launches with the 5-year guarantee, plus includes incremental hotspots. So that's a straightforward appeal to businesses that are tired of volatile mobile costs and fragmented add-ons.
Yeah, that 5-year price guarantee is a big deal because people can look at this and say like, well, what is this going to cost? It seems like these introductory offers can be compelling, and then what are you going to pay down the road? So they're doing that 5-year price guarantee, which is great. And I really think that their messaging is on point with this. And they rolled out a really cute ad campaign with Kevin Bacon to really dramatizing how SuperMobile keeps you connected from anywhere. So if you watch it, it's really great. We can link it in the show notes. But it shows just that anyone works from anywhere. He's working like on the beach and on the train and in all these different environments. And it just reinforces that reliability is no longer a promise. It's built into the product. And it's fun.
I love Kevin Bacon, so it's probably a pretty good move. He looks pretty good for his age. I would. What a great catch that is for them. So from a strategic standpoint, it's a smart pivot. So with customer growth plateauing, which we all can probably see, T-Mobile's leaning into enterprise segment with, infrastructure-led differentiation. So when you go against AT&T and Verizon, it's a great blend, for performance and security, and it gives them, somewhat of a pretty good edge. So plus the Kevin Bacon situation.
Yeah, I would say on that, the customer growth, that's really from the consumer side. On the business side, they're really continuing to grow. But I think if you're managing business mobility and you need that coverage, security, and cost certainty, SuperMobile definitely deserves some attention. And one last thing, I don't know if you saw this, but you'll be happy about this as I am, which is they just announced that they're doing free Wi-Fi on Southwest flights for not even for A-list. I think it's just for Rapid Rewards members. So on every Southwest flight, that's going to save us each $8 each time we fly, which is a lot. So
Great.
more news coming out from them soon, and that news. But switching gears, let's talk about Salesforce. This has kind of been a big topic this week, starting with a podcast that Mark Benioff did, and they talked about reducing 4,000 customer support roles, citing their deployment of AI agents, specifically on their Agentforce platform. So they're saying now that AI is now handling a substantial part of its customer interactions. That's a big number that they've done layoff.
It is, and Benioff said that it now handles 30 to 50% of the work at Salesforce, and the Agentforce has already conducted over 1 million customer conversations. I think that's a significant shift in how support is done. Hopefully, it's executing properly.
That's definitely a TBD. I mean, in other cases that I've seen across CX, companies have reduced their customer support and then brought people back, actually, because the automation isn't as good as they want it to be. I mean, how many great chatbots have you dealt with, or any of the kind of AI customer service things? They're not great interactions. So much so that I had a good interaction recently with Sirius FM. It was so easy and so good that I actually tweeted, or I X'd about it. I never know how to say that. It was so good. Like, it understood what I was saying, and I was like, kind of like, "Are you not a bot? Are you an actual human?" Because it was really just easy. It understood me. It solved my problem quick. So that kind of automation is really powerful, but it is sensitive. And Salesforce is cutting headcount while arguing that AI is augmenting work. So Benioff even pushed back hard against the narrative that AI will wipe out jobs. This was months ago, saying it's more about augmenting human roles than eliminating them. So I think this raises something important that needs to be addressed. Could enterprise software vendors be kind of creating a new marketing dynamic where their own AI-driven workforce reductions serve as product demonstrations? And I've brought this up before. What better way to show that your AI works than by, one, using it yourself, but then it's announcing that it's cutting 4,000 support roles while promoting Agentforce. So I think this raises interesting questions about whether companies are positioning their layoffs as proof points for their technology offerings. And I think this could create I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but this could create a subtle feedback loop where internal AI implementations that reduce headcount could become selling points for customers looking to get those same efficiency gains. So if this pattern does emerge, it could really signal a shift from AI as workforce augmentation to AI as workforce optimization, vendors potentially using their own operational changes as case studies for the technology that they're marketing to others. So you can see kind of how that could be a problem, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Before I kind of comment on all that, I've been exposed to customer service as well with chat, with agents, and I'm not convinced yet that it's close by even a long shot to what a human can do from a sensitivity, from a thoroughness, from a just all around making you feel good that this is answering all the right questions. And I feel like it's a gate that you have to go through that's sometimes not necessary. But from Benioff, framing it as AI frees up people from repetitive tasks that lets them do higher work. But these layoffs are a reality. And I think that, like you said, it has to be addressed in conjunction with the AI agents and Agentforce that you might be helping, but you're not. If those people are all being positioned, that's great, but the critics are already warning about long-term consequences for the workforce and morale. But so the 2 points are the workforce and morale, but also, these agents that are taking the place of these customer service people, is it a one-for-one swap out? Are you getting the same type of quality?
Yeah, for sure. There's a question about that, and then I think like as far as a swap out goes, it's not just agents. He also emphasized that internal hiring the focus of that has shifted. So some roles are paused, but they're actually increasing their hiring in sales to support this AI service demand. So it's not a pure headcount reduction. It's kind of a restructuring aligned with their AI growth. But I do think that there has to be, kind of overall company implications to this beyond shifting roles, right?
But it also plays into their stock story. So despite a strong second quarter, their third quarter forecast is a little weaker and a little more decline in shares. I don't want to do negative things, but I think investors are really watching this closely to see how this shapes up, from a workforce, and there's some focus on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to wrap it up, the strategy is operational and financial. Those things are very real, but it
Yeah.
does carry trade-offs. There's the workforce disruption, the cultural challenges, and then investor scrutiny. And I think ultimately the real test will be whether AI agents can consistently deliver value, but most importantly, without sacrificing trust and morale. And there are a lot of workforce implications that we need to keep an eye on.
I don't think this is just Salesforce. I think it will be other companies that have
Oh,
similar, right? So it's
100%.
kind of an example of what's going on out there with this technology.
Yeah, and layoffs across many different sectors. So let's move on. So ERP, everybody's favorite topic.
You've heard of it.
I kid about that, ERP. But it really has been a mainstay of enterprise software for decades. But um, there's different approaches coming out now. And what's different about this sort of more event-driven agentic approach to ERP?
I wrote an article about this. It was kind of one of those things that I was like, ERP is changing. It's going to change, and we've talked about data for a long time and how data is a big driver for AI, and companies getting their data in order is essential, not only for that, but for the future of technology, because you can't use that technology, whether it's agentic AI, data is really the driver of that. A lot of it's coming from ERP. So traditional ERP is built around structured workflows and batch processes. So when you run a close processes, there's rules, reviews. So agentic ERP is a little different, where it's real time and it's a different type of architecture. So instead of waiting for the login or login issue, and an agent can act immediately and move things along from an event perspective.
So, for those who don't live and breathe ERP, which is probably the majority of us, I like to tease you about ERP. Sorry, um, but give a practical example.
Yeah, so a good example would be like, say, an SAP or Microsoft Dynamics 365 or an Oracle ERP has a supplier communication agent, and it can read vendor emails, flag supply chain issues, update purchase orders without a person stepping in. That means problems get addressed before anybody actually sees them. So the agent actually those takes over and handles the events and executes.
So that looks like it could be like a big productivity boost, but it also raises the questions. One, how do people fit into this model? And I guess maybe the people question answers the second question, which is what happens when it's wrong?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I will kind of go back to that Industry 5.0 that I talk about a little bit, where humans and robots, or humans and the AI agents, work together, where it's a collaborative effort, where the humans become more strategic, and and the AI agents will be more executing repetitive rules-based tasks where people can focus more on judgment, negotiation, and strategy. So it's almost like we always talk about change management. This is a huge structural change to the way that the systems are used and the way that I guess culture of it. I kind of would think of it like ERP's kind of right now traditionally at the bottom feeding up or at the top feeding down with their data. This way it'd be like right in the middle where the architecture would be, event based, and then SaaS applications would be around it, would be grabbing that data as those enterprises would need to get data to other types of applications. But in many enterprises, the agents will still monitor things closely, but the trust has to be built where the humans will allow that, and then be able to gradually progress. But it's a different way of thinking. I think it's imminent that this is the type of systems that are going to be out there, because right now the ERPs are not dynamic enough to take advantage of the AI agents, where it's a complete event-based system. Today, it's not based on that. It's more of a workflow system and batch.
You mentioned Microsoft, you mentioned SAP, Oracle, but a good indicator here is the vast amount of number of companies that are getting into this space. Acumatica, Infor, Epicor, NetSuite. I mean, there's name it, right? So I think that shows some promise for the industry, and that this is indeed a thing. So what's the differentiator?
It's basically, it's not who has it, but who has it, and that it's reliable, that it's tailored to the industries, that it's governed properly. I mean, I think we talk about that a little bit. We don't talk about it as much as we could, but governing that AI agents and how the data is actually moved forward to the agents. Because I think if the data is not right, again, the major problem. So the risks are real. Compliance issues are real. Misdirected orders are real. Supplier relationships, making the bad call are real. These companies, if a big production company, say it's a $25 billion company, if this isn't working, they're going to scrap it. I mean, they're not going to miss orders. They can't afford not to be successful with production. So this is a way to be more efficient, to move into the next gen. I think the question, what's differentiator? I believe having the technology at the right time for the right industries, governed properly, and making sure that the data is there. And I think a lot of companies right now are putting their data together for the long term. So
good information. I think the opportunity is clear, the real-time action instead of batch reporting, but enterprises will certainly need that oversight and guardrails to make it work.
Yeah, the payoff is basically for companies that strike the balance between automation and human oversight. And I think we're seeing that across the board in other types of innovation as well, beyond ERP. So Mel, why don't we jump into the next one? And for a long time, people thought about data platforms as a giant storage system, warehouses to hold information, to run reports. But this definition doesn't really fit anymore. So we're fast forward now, we're in 2025. These platforms are becoming really just decision engines, right? I mean, everybody has different platforms to do different things, but they're central to how compliance is done, AI workloads, and even cost management.
Yep, we say data is the glue that holds it all together, right? But it's not just about storing data or producing dashboards. It's about shaping how decisions are getting made inside the businesses.
So if you even look at like Snowflake with Cortex AI and Databricks with the Mosaic AI, and what they're doing, they're embedding AI into the core of the platform. So instead of preparing data in one place, they're moving it into another tool, running models and querying and analyzing.
So I don't know. I don't know why today I'm like the devil's advocate, but that does sound efficient. But it has to raise some trust issues, right? So if AI is rewriting queries or generating these insights, the leaders still need to know how the systems got there. How's that happening?
Well, that's the challenge. The technology worked, but the enterprises want transparency. So it's like autopilot. You want to take over the flying, but you still need a dashboard that explains what it's doing and why. So I agree.
Yeah. And on the open formats, Iceberg, Delta Lake, Uniform, these names keep coming up. What's the deal?
Right. Open formats matter because enterprises want flexibility and less lock-in. So vendors are adjusting by supporting these formats. They're the main ones, but they're still layering their differentiation on top through governance, AI features, and integration. It balances. It's a balance for these customers. Who want freedom, but the vendors want the revenue.
Yeah, so well, cost is another pressure point, especially with AI workloads, even though they're
Yeah.
starting to get cheaper, but are they?
I think running AI at scale is expensive. That's why financial operations, FinOps, are becoming part of the platform conversation. That's why we're talking a little bit about ERP, or the next gen ERP could have more, platform oriented situations within it, where or technology that they don't have to go outside the box. We want predictability, not surprise bills. New performance metrics isn't just about speed. I think cost and transparency. Do you consider lock-in is the major issue, or if you were given everything that you could get from the vendors that you work with, is that okay because the cost, the transparency, technology is in line?
I do think vendor lock-in is a problem. I think that we could have a whole different podcast just on that. But I think, just to wrap this one up, it looks like data platforms now are obviously more than storage and analytics. They have to be built on openness and AI. But I do think that this continues to raise the questions that we're going to have for a while about AI with anything, which is trust and then cost control.
That's exactly where the market is heading. The companies that solve those issues will move faster than the rest. So we'll just have everybody just stay tuned.
Well, we got through a lot and we managed to do it in under 25 minutes. So, and hopefully the next week we will have a lot more to talk about. I am heading off to San Francisco next for Boxworks, and we have a lot to talk about. Next week we'll talk about Atlassian's new acquisition and anything else that is hot in enterprise applications. You going anywhere next week? Or are you still preparing for weeks and weeks of travel coming up?
I'm preparing for weeks and weeks. So starting after next week, I have travel probably for the rest of the year. So it'll be a pretty solid fourth quarter, and excited to have our podcast to kind of talk about how everything's going and what we're seeing in the field, and how we're recommending, new things to do.
Great. Well, for everyone watching, thank you for joining us. I'm Melody Brew. This is Robert Kramer, More Insights and Strategy. Join us each week. We're on a roll. We're going to not let the travel get to us. We're going to hop on from wherever we are, like even in a backyard in sunny San Diego. And we're going to tell you the latest of what's up. But drop us a line. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you heard. And if you didn't, then you can send Robert a note telling him what you didn't like. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Bye, Robert.
Thank you.